All right. Welcome. Welcome to the second to last, or no, this is the last news of the year. Next news, if I'm not mistaken, will happen on January 1st, first day of the first year. So, welcome to the last news of the year. That being said, I have made a pledge to do the open source challenge, the thing that we're going to talk about next week at the beginning of the video, so that you all know ahead of time what it's going to be. And there's going to be a link in the Discord. There's going to be a thread in the Discord where you can drop your ideas. You can drop them on this video if you like as a comment, or you can go ahead and tweet them at me if you like. So at the Null channel. So go ahead and do any of that you'd like. For next week, since it is going to be January 1st, the first stream, I want you to do what you think is the most pivot. You know what? That's actually right. Russell's correct. Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I know that today is much better than the last 2 days have been for me. Should have started with that. So I'm very happy. And I hope that you all have heat. I know that across the United States, there's been very cold weather, very, very cold weather. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that later today because there was a bug in some firmware that caused me great pain. But yeah, so I hope you're having a very Merry Christmas. So, all right. So the open source thing that we're going to talk about next news is going to be what you consider to be some of the most pivotal but underrated open source projects. So you can't say like Kubernetes or TensorFlow or some of those things. Those are big open source, but I want to know what you think is one of the bigger ones, but also not necessarily top on everybody's list of biggest projects. I want to know those underrated but pivotal projects that you think are really either the next big thing that's just not known, or, really useful for the niche, but, maybe not known very well. So that is what it is. I will create a link in the Discord as soon as this is done for that. Actually, I'm going to go create it right now. What is the most underrated but pivotal open source for 2023? So I guess it probably is easier to just say what's the most underrated project, open source project, but I like putting the word pivotal in there. It makes me sound intelligent. All right, so there's a thread for that now. All right, so with that, we're going to jump into news. We're going to talk about the clouds. It was a really quiet week, which I expect. I expect next week to also be really quiet. These 2 weeks are quiet weeks. So we'll be done quick. That being said, the last thing that I wanted to announce is on Saturday, it's New Year's Eve, and I think I want to do a New Year's Eve stream. Now, starting in January, I'm actually going to start streaming on another channel. I'm going to release a video on that for everyone that wants to join me, and we're going to work on things that I program anyways. I spend a lot of time writing stuff for my shows and whatnot, and so I figured I might as well do those on stream for people that would like to hang out and talk about what we're doing, possibly even give me better ideas than what I'm doing anyhow, and make even a better project. So I'm going to start streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and maybe Saturdays. Saturday is going to be a bonus days. I'm going to shoot for just Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then maybe a Saturday earlier in the day. Hot chocolate this time, not coffee. You have to have your hot chocolate for Christmas. So yeah, that being said, what would you like that stream to be? We've done hacking streams, so we could do a hacking stream. Those are kind of fun. Put me out of my comfort zone. We could do an inaugural stream and work on something like Legion or Conduit. Those are two projects we have talked about. Or we could do just something else that would be fun. Another thing that we've talked about is exploring some of these tools that we haven't used as much. I have some open source projects that I saw. Actually, AWS, in part of the news later, released a new open source command line tool. Do you guys want to explore that? I want to know what you guys would like, and we'll do that until New Year's. And I know New Year's hits at different times for different people. And because of that, I'm going to start somewhat earlier in the afternoon, about New Year's for a lot of Europe. I'm going to start at like 11 p.m. Europe time, I think. And we're going to stream past my New Year's time. So let me know what you guys want. I'm open to any of those. We can either write some code, we can explore some open source tools, or we can do a hacking stream, whichever you guys would prefer. Let me know. You can let me know in the Discord. You can let me know in the comments, or tweet at me if you like. All right. Well, one of the biggest news was I guess I didn't discover it. Somebody else discovered it, but I rediscovered a bug in my furnace's firmware. So I don't know if you guys know how heat pumps work, but they basically work by exchanging heat with your exterior air. And when it gets too cold, when the temperature outside gets too cold, the heat pump can't work. There's not enough heat out there to exchange. It's a little painful. And so the last 2 days, I'm a little underprepared for today. I actually wanted to have my office, I wanted to have my lights hang, my sound panels hung. I was planning on having a little extra plan for today, and I didn't. And the reason was my furnace had a bug that when it hit negative numbers outside, negative Fahrenheit, which is very negative Celsius, I think it was actually, they must have stored the temperature in a U8, and so it overflowed, basically rolled over to a very hot number, so it thought that it could use the heat pump. So basically, my furnace just decided to only use the heat pump, which it couldn't use, which just froze over the whole unit. And so basically, that's what happened, and why I lost heat. And it was a bug in the firmware of my furnace. That's actually kind of terrifying. I was a little scared. I was like, holy crap, this is where we're at. This is what the world has come to. But that was me for 2 days. I didn't have heat in sub negative 10 Fahrenheit, which is like negative 20 Celsius degree weather. Now I had fantastic neighbors, so we were fine, and we actually huddled for a little while playing Xbox with my kids. So I had a great time. I'm a little underprepared though. A little underprepared from all of that. So anyhow, let's move on to the real news. The real reason you guys are here, not my life story. I actually want to spend a little bit of time on this first one. So last week, I talked to you guys about a security incident at LastPass. It's a password manager, and I'm a big believer in password managers. I really support what they're doing because it helps you come up with random secure passwords and keeps them in a place and remembers them for you. So I'm a big supporter of these. But LastPass kind of released if you remember last week, I called them out and I said that their blog post left a lot of dangling questions. And I'm sorry. Yes, Jabril, I do still use the Moonlander keyboard. I like it. I like it. Anyways, it left a lot of unanswered questions to me. They were very vague in some things, which I said brought up the question of maybe they don't actually know what the blast radius of this incident was. And I think I was proven right. Just a little critical reading of blog posts, and I found this. They released a new update, notice of recent security incident. And this is not good. This is bad on multiple levels, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I think, you know what, to LastPass's credit, I think that this is good. I think how they did this was good. But this is actually a really bad security incident, and I'll get into why. Now, thankfully, your vaults are still encrypted, which means you have some time, but you need to change all your passwords if you use LastPass. That's what I would say, because encryption only delays them getting access to your credentials. They can still be decrypted. That's just how it is. It's how many GPUs do they have to waste? How fast can they get through it? But that being said, we talked about the August 2022 incident where, this summer they had an incident. And in that, some credentials were stolen that were used later on, which this is a blunder in itself because anything that was accessed should have been reset. And the fact that they missed something is already a blunder in itself. But mistakes happen. And really, it's how we come back from those mistakes, how we own up to them, how we fix them, that is important. This is not me sitting here bashing LastPass. I want to go through what happened here. All right. So to date, we have determined that once the cloud storage access keys and dual storage container decryption keys were obtained, the threat actor copied information from backup that contained basic customer account information and related metadata, including company names, end user names, billing address, email addresses, telephone numbers, and IP addresses from which the customers were accessing the LastPass service. This, to me, is actually a pretty big deal. If you're like me and I use a static IP address and LastPass is storing my IP address, you now know where to hit my... Now, I don't use LastPass. I use a different one. But you actually now know. And a lot of people, even if you have a dynamic one, you stick around with it for a while, sometimes until your modem reboots. Some ISPs force that change, weekly or monthly. But you still have, and that IP address tells more than just yours. It also tells you what service provider you have and what location you are. So there's actually a lot that's in that the hackers now know from you. But they already know your billing address, so they know where your home is. They know your email and your telephone numbers. This is pretty serious on this level. Yes, Russell's right. Priority number 1 is change passwords for sites that have your payment mechanisms in it. Priority number 2 is change all your other passwords. You should go from the most sensitive to your least sensitive. So payment, company, if you have like company access in here for your company, you want to change those. Again, you have time. Exactly how much time, I couldn't tell you. It depends a lot on, if it was the NSA, you're already screwed. Well, you're already screwed anyways. So the worst part is, at this point, this isn't vault information. And so this sounds fine. This sounds annoying, this sounds bad, but it's not your passwords. But it gets worse. It gets worse. The threat actor was also able to copy a backup of customer vault data from the encrypted storage container, which is stored in a proprietary binary. Proprietary binary format doesn't matter, because if you know up here, they were able to steal the source code. So they probably already know what the binary data format was from the August 2022 breach. Now, these are encrypted fields remain secure with a 256-bit AES encryption that can only be decrypted with a unique encryption key derived from each user's master password using R0 blah, blah, blah. So again, they don't know the password, and that's good. This is good. They've done the right architecture here with their zero knowledge architecture. That's absolutely right. What I don't like here is that they kind of make this sound like this is the end all be all when it's not. We know that encryption is just a delayment. If you have an encrypted hard drive, it can be decrypted. It just takes time. And hopefully that's enough time for you to reset your passwords. And I wish they had pushed on that a little bit more. The encryption and decryption of data is performed only by the local LastPass client. So there is no evidence at this point that any unencrypted credit card data was accessed. LastPass does not store complete credit card numbers, and credit card information is not archived in this cloud storage environment. So at this point, I would wish that LastPass would put here, right here, or right here, that they recommend you changing your passwords. That's like the if again, if you're handling an incident like this, you should just make sure that that is you're getting down here where people are TLDR. TLDR should be up here, and you should say, "Hey, go ahead and change your password." It's the best thing because we don't know if they're going to be able to decrypt these things or not. Another thing is, it took from December 22nd, and let's see. Oh no, I want other no, not this guy. I just want your other ones. Let's see. Industry last password tips and tricks. It's been a week or two. It's been a week or two since the last update. And in that update, they didn't say you should change your passwords. And I feel like they should have known, or at least warned people at that point, that they needed to change their passwords. Anyhow, that being said, this is not me. This is not me hating on LastPass. This is me bringing it to your attention. I am critiquing it a little bit because, one, it helps all of us. We all will make mistakes, and we all have to rewrite one of these at some point. Or hopefully you don't. Hopefully you don't. I would love it if you don't. I hope that if there's a case where I have to write one of these, that I'm able to do it and do it well. So they recommend that you never use your master password on other websites. Of course, your main password should be it. To further increase the security of your, they're saying to use a stronger than typical password. And they required 12-character minimum, which means that cracking this encryption could take quite a while, which is good and the reason to have it. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's a couple of tips coming out from the community right now. Look for email obfuscation like DuckDuckGo offers. It can make it hard to attack your... It can make it easier for you to pivot if your email is compromised. Another person was, but when was the info leaked? So the worst part about this is it started back in August 2022. So about 5 months ago. And more of this is just coming to light. So, anyways. Oh, here was the update of Wednesday, November 30th. Okay, so it's all in this one. Anyways, so yeah, about a month ago was their last update. So the hackers have actually already had a month with your data. This is probably my biggest problem with this at this point was a month ago, they should have warned you to change your password just as a safety precaution. They should have said, as a safety precaution because if you remember a week or two ago, I told you that the last security notice was a little light on detail. And it made me think that they didn't understand the full blast radius of the attack, which I feel now proves correct. And I don't know, but when it comes to security as a password manager, I would have liked in that security instance them to say, hey, look, because this is full security and we have zero knowledge, but it means the hackers have had a month to mull on this encryption. It's been a while, and a month is a lot of time. So I would have liked that. Hey, just as if you're worried about your security, go ahead and change your passwords. Start now. Do one a day. Actually, if I did one a day, it would take me probably about a year. I have way too many passwords. Anyways, we'll move on from that. I don't want to harp too much because I think that they're trying. I haven't seen any malice. I do think that there was some red flags that I saw. Again, it's hard. It's hard to admit that you made a mistake. Yes. August was the first reported hack of their source code getting released, which that hack stole credentials, and then those credentials were used later, and that was reported in November. In that report in November, they didn't know, or they didn't say they didn't know, but they said very vague things, which is why, again, I called into question that the vagary. I think I actually used that word. I like the word vagary. I said that there was a lot of vagary in the security thing, where it felt like either they didn't know or it was they did know it was. So that's the other thing. They either didn't know or they did know, and they were trying to purposefully keep people from knowing. Now, I don't think that they were, because they came out and released it. Now, maybe it got so bad that they had to, for investors, for the FCC. Maybe they didn't know the full extent. Not sure. But I just want to be clear that I'm also not attacking them or anything like that. I think that using LastPass is better than not using any password manager. It's bad that they've had so many security incidences this last year. Probably not good on them. But it could happen to anybody. I just want to be clear. All right, let's move on. They were not the only people with bad news. Anchor says an ex-employee caused a $5 million exploit. They also vow to do better. Now, I want to be clear. If you read this, it was not the ex-employee; it was the credentials. So the ex-employee conducted a supply chain attack by putting malicious code into a package of features updates to the team's internal software. So basically, per my understanding of this, actually, I can make this a little bit. They made code and committed it to the repository, and then it got deployed after they were gone. But I guess they knew that they were leaving. Okay, this is what I had read. The team had announced that the exploit was caused by a stolen developer key. That's why I said initially that it wasn't the ex-employee that did it. It was just that the ex-employee's key was stolen somehow. But Anchor is now saying, okay, so I guess Anchor is now saying that the authority is attempting to have the attacker brought to justice. So I guess maybe it was the ex-employee. Not super smart to use your own credentials in an attack. I just have to say, if you're an ex-employee, don't do that. I mean, don't do the bad things anyways. But like, this is like when your children do something ridiculously stupid, and they're like, oh, I didn't do that. And you're like, dude, I'm showing you a video of you. Oh, I didn't do that. I have no idea how that weed got in my underwear. I have no idea. Somebody else must have put it there. Like, that's kind of the level so anyways, I guess it was, though. Last bit of security news. That I have for you all today, before we get into cloud news. Study finds AI assistants help developers produce code that's more likely to be buggy. And buggy is a security issue. That's why I put it in here. Now, this is where Stanford University have found that programmers who accept help from AI tools like GitHub Copilot produce less secure code than those who fly solo. Now, this is probably not a nail in the coffin for Copilot, or I've not even tried Encoder. So if you guys don't know, and actually this could be a great stream too if you guys want to. If we're coding, I've been testing out 3 different Tab9, Copilot, and Code Whisperer from AWS. And maybe if Facebook has Encoder and I can get access to it, I'm going to test those out, and I'm going to do like, what is the best coding assistant out there video. It's probably going to be January, February. I'm taking my time. I'm paying a lot of money to have all 4 code review coding assistants. but I want to do a good job. I want to actually use them. I want to actually write code with them and understand the ins and outs of these. Anyways, this research here was saying that people that use them depended on them too much, and they wrote on average like a lot more vulnerabilities than programmers who didn't use them. And these weren't like security programmers. These were just your regular programmers. And yeah. So anyways, yeah, while the security the paper focuses on just functions in the C programming languages. So again, it's maybe the Rust is fine. I think the moral of the story here is that you as the programmer, your job is to make sure that the code you produce is correct, is good, is useful, is doing the things that it's supposed to be doing. And so if you're going to use one of these assistants, you know, if my team members are going to use one of these, it would be their code. They're going to own it. If they're going to try to check it in, it means that they've looked over it, they understand it, and are taking ownership of it. These are like really good autocompletes at this point. As far as what I've seen, they're really good autocompletes, or they're really good at, you could say, hey, write me an application like GIMP, and it's going to do it because it's going to copy GIMP's source code, and done. They're really good copy and paste. So I believe this research. I think it's probably true. I'm not saying that it's the end all be all, because these AI models are going to get better and better, and should hopefully learn from those things. All right. As for cloud news, we have very little cloud news to go through, so we are going to be super fast. If you haven't, though, at this point, you made it this far, go ahead and hit that like button for me. It would make me feel fantastic, and let Google know that you're liking it so far. All right, let's jump in with Azure. Azure has absolutely no news for us. They gave me nothing. Their last post was on December 15th. Nothing. Moving on. Google has exactly one thing for us. The addition of 85 new direct events. Now, I don't actually know if I covered this last time because it was December 19th, right on the edge. I might have covered this last week, and my week was so crazy. If you don't know why, check out the video of the beginning of this. It was a chilly week for me. Anyways, so they have 85 new direct events for EventArc. So you can go check all of these out. There's quite a few. I don't feel like I covered this, but I feel like I covered it. I'm sorry if I doubled down on this, but there are now 85 new ones. If you don't know what EventArc is, it allows you to event from GCP resources. So it's pretty cool. AWS had two things that I saw. AWS License Manager now supports commercial Linux subscription, discovery, and governance. So if that's something you were looking for from the License Manager, this is actually pretty cool. This includes subscription purchases as part of EC2 subscription included AMIs. So this is kind of making the marketplace a little bit more powerful for marketplace Linux. So, you can track your subscription of instances of RHEL and SUSE and Ubuntu Pro subscriptions in the License Manager. That's actually pretty nice, pretty powerful for the people that need that. This is pronounced SUSE. It's German. So I used to call it SUSE before I worked for SUSE. I was corrected. So I'm correcting you. I also hear people call it Susie, but I never did that. All right. So Amazon RDS now supports renaming multi-AZ deployments with 2 readable standbys. I don't know that this is a huge deal. It was the only other thing that was out there. Well, actually, there's a third thing. AWS actually made a new open source project, and we're going to look at that in just a second. But anyways, it allows you to rename multi-AZ deployments. in Amazon RDS. So if that's something that, if you had really stupid names earlier and you're regretting that because you named one Amy after your girlfriend and she's not your girlfriend anymore, you can now rename it to the new one. So, yeah. Anyways, moving on. Finch. What is Finch? Now, this is again where our live stream next week for New Year's could be about Finch if you want it to be. It could be about anything. Well, not anything. Make it software related. But Finch. This is a new tool released by AWS. It's a new open source project. They have the Apache 2 null channel approved license. And it looks interesting. Let's talk about what it is. Finch is an open source client for container development. Now, at first I was like, what is this? Why do I need something else? But I'm actually kind of interested. Now, they only have Mac OS, so I can get my wife's Mac and we can test this out. I did give my Mac to my wife when I built this PC. She was like, I want the new Mac, and so she got the new Mac. That was always kind of the plan. I was waiting on the new processors to build my desktop, so she now has the Mac, but we can use it if we need to test some of these things out. Although I do believe it's supposed to work on anything. It's written in Go, so we should be able to compile it just fine. We'll have to test that out. They only have instructions for Mac. The server is now called Everyone Hates Amy. Yeah. So yeah, rename your RDS instances. Okay. Okay, so what it looks to be doing is giving you a way to tie together all of the container tools. Now, it integrates with nerdctl, which I absolutely love. I absolutely love this because I love nerdctl, and I'm going to tell you what nerdctl is in just a second if you don't know. While Finch doesn't implement 100% of upstream commands, the most common commands are in place and working. So then it goes on and talks about some of the things that it does and some of the things that you can do with it. Anyways, it provides a simple client that integrates. It works with containerd. Again, this is where like it tries to tie together all the things. It works with containerd and with BuildKit to handle OCI image builds. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know exactly everything. We need to kind of download it, like, because part of it seems like a Docker replacement because they obviously can't use Docker themselves because they don't want to pay for the license. That was my first guess, but it seems like it's also trying to be different as well than just like Docker desktop, but it is running a VM in Lima for macOS. So anyways, I don't know. This is what they released. That's the open source news for AWS. I like seeing that they're open sourcing stuff. I looked at Linode. They don't have much. Oh, Cloudflare had something. I forgot about this. Kind of good. One of the most requested features is here: DNS record comments and tags. So if you don't know what this is, you can write a lot of DNS records, and basically this allows you to tag them and then search for the tags. So you can search for tags. So like if you have some for email or for testing or dev or whatnot, you can now tag and name and add all of those things so that you could put metadata with your DNS records. Kind of seems like it should have been here before now, but anyways, let's talk about Finch a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit more about this because if you don't know, containerd has one of the world's worst CLIs. One of the worst. And I stand by that. Now, I think it's the worst on purpose because I think the containerd CLI is designed for people developing on Containerd to actually test the functionalities of the OCI. But the OCI isn't Docker compatible. It's not the easy build a container. It's a little weird. This is the CLI that comes with it is the CTR. It's a little weird. Look at this. These are what you have. How do you build a container? Yeah. So that's where nerdctl comes in. For all of you that don't know, nerdctl is a Docker compatible CLI for Containerd. So it allows you to do all the things just like you would with the Docker command line. You can even alias it as Docker if you accidentally type Docker a lot. It's really fantastic. So anyways, I just wanted to point those out because I had talked about those. Wanted to finish up the cloud news. That was super disjointed. That was actually a horrible way of doing that. Yeah, Russell. Comments in DNS is a top tier feature. Because you end up having a ton of DNS entries. I don't know how Cloudflare hasn't had this before now. One, it doesn't seem like it should be that difficult of a feature to implement. And two, it seems like a really important thing to have. It's a top tier feature, for sure. I'm glad that you have them now, Cloudflare. I didn't realize you didn't have these. I haven't really managed DNS through. I have now. Null channel, the null cloud uses them, but that's another thing that we could program on. I could program on the null cloud. I need to finish making the public API with the token so that you can access the API with a OAuth token. And then I think it's ready for prime time. Well, no, it's not. It's a horrible UI. I'm not a UI developer at all. It's a horrible UI, but it's getting there. It's getting there. All right. Anything else from the cloud that I missed that you guys saw that I should talk about? Yeah, I do need to finish the UI. I am really bad at front-end development. Now, I have managed front-end developers, and generally, so I personally don't believe in full-stack teams. Or, no, sorry. Scratch that. Do not clip that. Don't repeat that. I don't believe in full-stack engineers. I know a lot about front end. I know how the front end stuff works. I can talk to you about Webpack and what it does. I can talk to you about CSS and how it works. And it doesn't mean that I'm an expert at front end. I can write some, absolutely, but I'm not an expert in it. Now, what I do believe in is full stack teams. That's what I like to see, is when a team has all of the knowledge that they can bring their thing to fruition from UI to backend. But that doesn't usually mean that everybody on the team knows how to do everything, at least not as well as others. Again, like I said, I can do front end and I have committed front end code to almost every project that I've been on. But those are usually small bug fixes and things like that. I'm not good at making things pretty, but I actually want to learn some. So we're going to learn some with the null cloud. It's ours to do with what we want. And so we'll learn, probably painfully. The UI, CSS, HTML, it's a magical place. It's a magical place. And you all know I don't like magic. All right. If you bought a 2016 or 2015 to a 2018, I don't remember. I don't know the years. Don't quote me. But if you bought a MacBook around then and you have the butterfly keycaps or a keyboard, you might be able to get up to $400 from Apple. So I know a lot of developers use these, so I wanted to bring it up in case you yourself use a Mac and you bought it during. I don't know which Apples. It's whatever ones, the butterfly ones in 2015. And then all the way up to 2019. So they did finally settle, which kind of means that they admitted to knowing that they had a problem and released the MacBook anyways with it. So, I think it's a settlement, though. They didn't actually lose in court. They didn't admit that they did anything wrong. They're just going to pay you, which means Apple probably knew it was going to lose, but this was cheaper than fighting it out. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, I know a lot of programmers use Macs. If you do, you should check out if you can get. I agree with you, Russell. I think that it's possibly the worst laptop. You know how you know that it's a bad keyboard? Apple people won't ever, like, I mean the real Apple people, not people that just use Apple, but Apple people won't ever admit anything is wrong. They have argued with me ad nauseum. I don't have it around here. I think my wife took it. That the Magic Mouse was a good design, even though to charge it, you had to plug it. You couldn't use it and charge it because the plug was on the bottom. And they have argued with me that Apple is function over design, and like they're wrong. They're just wrong. They are very much aesthetics over function. Anyways, form over function. They're form over function, not function over. Anyways, whatever. It doesn't matter. That being said, you know that it's a bad keyboard when literally MacBook fanboys said it was a garbage keyboard. You just know that like it's a garbage keyboard. So, anyways, like I said, I was shivering and cold all last week. I didn't come up with a whole bunch of articles. I didn't read a whole lot of articles. There's a lot of stuff going on in my life. And so I have a couple open source things that I saw that I thought were interesting. But I wanted to know if anybody had used this. Perilous. Basically, it's Zero Trust. Perilous is a free open source tool that enables controlled, audited access to Kubernetes infrastructure for your users, user groups, and services. So what's interesting to me, and why I wanted to bring it up with you guys, is Perilous can be easily integrated with your pre-existing RBAC configured and your SSO providers, or identity providers that support OIDC, through just-in-time service account creation and fine-grained user credential. So what I thought would be really interesting is somehow for all of you superfans to give you access to the null cloud somehow. So I've been looking into it. But I want to do it in some way where it's not just insane and you guys just have full access to destroy the null cloud. And it looks interesting, so I might try it. It's another thing we could try on stream. And it seems like it will be able to work with my OIDC provider, which is Auth0. I know that I was pressured by some to do my own authentication for the null cloud, and because I love to do everything the hardest way, and there's some open source projects where I could, but in the end, I wanted to make sure that my users' data was super secure, and I'm not ready to have that on the null cloud. I want that to be somewhere safer for now. As soon as I can make sure that the null cloud is safer than Auth0, maybe we'll do it. And maybe we'll transfer all the users' accounts. That would be fun. But not doing that right now. So anyways, this looks like a possibility. Are you guys interested? Anyways, let me know what you guys would like to do that Saturday. Again, I'm interested. All right, let's jump into the open source. Now, I asked you guys to tell me what your favorite Linux distribution was, but I asked you two things. Linux distribution for desktop and Linux distribution for containers. One of the interesting things that I found is most people didn't actually care what their containers were, which I found kind of fascinating because I care about it a lot. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it doesn't matter a lot. And so I want to talk about it, but the outstanding desktop environment is Arch. Hands down, developers like Arch. So I think what I'm going to do is I haven't installed Linux on this computer yet. And so I think one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to start using Arch. I've always used Ubuntu. I even used Ubuntu when I worked at SUSE because Tumbleweed was trouble. And I've always really liked Ubuntu. I liked its support. I liked its community. Really have liked it. But maybe I'll try Arch on this desktop. Maybe that's something we'll do. I'll be installing it this upcoming week. So I'll probably be installing Arch because that is what you guys, with outstanding resolution, said was Arch Linux was your favorite. So, yeah. Favorite desktop. Dude. Okay. Russell said Arch is so easy to install now. Every Linux is so much easier to install now than it was like 6 years ago. 6 years ago, Linux could be such a pain. Ubuntu was about the only one that was easy. I say easy to install. But no, they have all gotten way better. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to install Arch this week. You know what actually is really cool? Something that is really cool is how my computer is set up. I can actually restart this computer because I stream on the Mac Mini. So this just outputs the one monitor to the Mac Mini. So like I can actually restart the computer and the stream won't go dead. Actually, the camera won't go dead. So like we can even do, I have it set up specifically this way because it allows me to do things where we could restart or things like that and be perfectly fine doing it. Arch is great until you come back 3 months later from a business trip. Arch only got a UI installer in the last year. Ooh. Well, that's anyway. Ooh, sorry, that just flipped you. Sorry, I just gave somebody a headache. All right, well, we'll install Arch. Do you guys want to do that on stream? Let me know what you want to see from a New Year's stream. Yeah. Again, hacking, whatnot. You can see a complete noob at Arch. I know that it's the Pac-Man is their package manager, right? I'll have to learn how to do that. So yeah. We'll see. Now, let's talk about what everyone else's containers and OSs were. I got Ubuntu, of course. It's one of my favorites. One of the things that I love about Ubuntu is they have great container support and server support. The other thing that I really love is that you can run Ubuntu server and you don't have to pay for it. This is one of my biggest problems with Red Hat is I can't run as a hobbyist Red Hat Enterprise Linux without jumping through a ton of hoops, giving them my email, whatnot. Here I can just click download and I can get the server that a company would pay for. And this is fantastic. And the great thing is they have a really great set of containers built on the same ecosystem. So it allows you to stay in the same ecosystem. And the same ecosystem is actually important because I want to point out one thing that I don't know if a lot of people know. But again, containers don't have the kernel. They're contained inside of a container. And sometimes you can run in problems if you build on it one and you run in another container or you run in another OS that has a vastly different kernel. You can actually have problems with that. And so I really like it when an ecosystem has everything that I could like. And so for that, I've really loved Ubuntu. A lot of people brought in Debian, which Ubuntu is built on Debian. I didn't actually bring up the Debian project. I think the Debian one is another great one. So Debian Slim is another great container image. That's another one you guys brought up. I think it's a fantastic container image to make as your base. Debian has huge support in the community. You can run Debian servers as well. So I like that. Another one that the community brought up was Alpine. Alpine Linux is a security-oriented, lightweight Linux distribution based on BusyBox and Musil libc. Now, you can also find Alpine distributions of your favorite one. A lot of times they'll have Go dash Alpine, and that's like the Alpine of Go, the Go distribution. So you can find this in many different flavors, and you can download it. I think it's a fantastic one. It's not one that I use a lot, because there are some other ones that I appreciate, but there are a lot, and I think that this is one that you really can't go wrong with. Here's the Debian Slim. So you could talk about what Slim means. Is it just has less stuff in it by default. Alpine is here as well. There's a bunch of containers, and you can go to this Linux containers, and they have a bunch of containers. So Debian Slim is definitely one that I've used. This is one. Oh, actually, this is the one. That was me searching for it. Is one that I think is underutilized. If you run on Red Hat servers, if you're using RHEL, the UBI, the Universal Base Image, is really fantastic. Now, it is one thing that I want to point out is the UBI comes with its own EULA, which means that it's freely distributed. It doesn't have restrictions on distributing it, which means you can use it and actually even use it on something that's not Red Hat. Something that pops to mind is you could run it on Rocky. Rocky is binary compatibly RHEL. And so if you wanted to use the UBI on Rocky, I think that's a really great pairing. I think that's actually really fantastic. Now, Rocky has its own images, so you can just use the Rocky ones. But if you wanted to use the UBI, and as long as you didn't need packages from RHEL, you'd be great. Now, if you need packages from RHEL, you have to pay for those containers. For RHEL containers, not UBI. Oh no, you can't see my, oh no, I'm so sorry. Oh, I have failed you all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That hurts me. Well, now you all can see what you couldn't see beforehand. Let's go back. Yeah, this was Alpine. I think it's really great. They have ones for Raspberry Pi, generic ARM. These were the things I was pointing to while I was talking about it, so definitely check it out. And it really is security oriented. So again, I don't think that you can go wrong with Alpine. This was the Debian Slim. This was the one that I was just talking about. Really sorry about that. Please feel free to say that I'm not showing my screen. Usually my monitor is like up here that shows me what's being on the screen, but now it's all the way over here because I haven't fully set the new office up. And so I have to look over here to see if I'm actually streaming what I meant to be. So this is the one that I was saying was a little underutilized, I think. And one of the reasons I want to point it out is a lot of people have compliance and security. And so their security team will say, hey, we can only use Red Hat. And if you can only use Red Hat, the UBI is great. Or if you're providing an image for a customer or client that has only approved, so like banks, for example, might say the only Linux distribution we support is RHEL. The UBI is a great choice for that, and is one that you should be thinking of. Rocky and Alpine, Rocky Mountain Linux is next, right? Yes. So that is the one that I wanted to bring up. I actually love Rocky Linux. I think that more people should get on it. I love just even their marketing here. Rocky Linux is open source enterprise operating system designed to be on 100% bug for bug compatible with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It's binary compatible with Red Hat Linux. If it works on Linux, it should work on Rocky. It is effectively RHEL 9.1, but it's Rocky 9.1. I do love this 100% bug for bug compatible. So Rocky as a base OS is fantastic, but there's also Rocky container images. There's this Rocky Linux here. But if you're looking at the UBI, there's a lot of great selection here. There's the Red Hat, the UBI 8 minimal, UBI 8, UBI 9 minimal, UBI 9, UBI micro. Micro and minimal are different. Micro has almost nothing in it. Like the base container has almost nothing, whereas the minimal has a very reduced, but still has some stuff in it. And UBI 9 basically has everything that you would expect for like a development container to have. Yeah, I saw the Alma Linux. I really don't. I don't really care. I like Rocky because of the people behind it. The people behind Rocky are the same ones that were behind CentOS before Red Hat killed CentOS. And don't get me wrong, why Red Hat did what they did with CentOS makes sense. I don't have to agree with it for it to make sense. I couldn't tell you that. Was I disappointed? Yes. Yes, I was. But it makes sense. Those same people that originally did that are behind the Rocky one. Now, Rocky and Alma Linux are looking to try to do the exact same thing. Be a Red Hat compatible. I'll bring it up on screen here in just a second. Alma Linux. So this is Alma Linux here. That's trying to be the same thing. Alma Linux OS is a one-for-one binary compatible clone of RHEL. They say guided and built by the community. It's really built by the community because it's guided by RHEL. I don't like that wording. I know that I'm nitpicking of like guided and built by the community. It's guided by RHEL. If it's a one-for-one compatible RHEL, it's guided by RHEL. Not that I dislike it. I'm super critical of wording. It's probably bad on me. But I like both of them. I really do. I generally support Rocky. I need to get a Rocky t-shirt. I need to get an interview with Rocky engineers. Yeah. So that was it for our open source. Remember, next week we are talking about the most underrated but pivotal open source projects for 2023. Can't say Kubernetes, can't say TensorFlow, can't say anything that's super big and popular. Can't say Arch Linux. I guess maybe Arch Linux. It's maybe underrated. I don't know. Everybody that I talk to really loves it. I have not used it for a long time, so we'll see. We'll see how I like it. So, other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas. Thank you for joining me. Ooh, remember, Saturday stream for like 5 or 6 hours, kicking off the new year. What do you want it to be about? If nobody tells me anything, I'll pick something. I'll pick something that I'm interested in. We will play. We'll just play a video game. Yeah, how do you like them apples? I'm just gonna sit here and play a game. Probably not going to do that. Yeah, so to be honest, I don't think it's a Rocky versus Alma. Honestly, like I think they can both exist. They're both shooting to be the same thing, but just as a community. So it's all about your community and what you want to do with your community. Personally, I don't think that it should be a Rocky versus Alma. It should be like these are the communities, and really, which one you pick might be based off of your community preference. Even, like that's basically what I've said. I'm backing. I talk about Rocky a lot, basically based off of its community, not about technical aspects of the project. So yeah. Anyways, really good. Thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a fantastic week, and I will see you next weekend.